you. Why not today? Why not now? Let it all fall away. The one who came to you is so long gone, and all that remains is just a song of love. We're here in your grace. Oh, beloved one. Beloved one. Never born, never died, always here in this heart of mine, everything.
Hello. Thank you for being here this evening. I'm Mark Booth, publisher at Hodder Stoughton, and today we are celebrating publishing this. And this is timeless wisdom in physical form by a timeless master in physical form. I feel very excited and privileged to have this opportunity to be in Mooji's presence. I don't mind sharing it with you guys. I want to thank Waterstones for setting this event up and for selling copies of the book at the end. I've come to appreciate that what Mooji is saying applies to everybody, and at Hodder we want to communicate it to as many people as possible so that they can be touched by the power of this great master. I hope many of you will buy it and treasure it. I'd like to introduce you to Peter Stanford, journalist, broadcast and biographer, former editor of the Catholic Herald, and someone whose writings explore history, theology, and the cultural significance of religious ideas. Peter is a Catholic and looks for the truth in all religions. He is unique in the way he writes about these things in the mainstream press, largely secular in this country. Remember that Bob Dylan line, "Something is happening here, but you don't know what it is, do you, Mrs. Jones?" Dylan was talking about the great cultural and spiritual flowering of the 1960s, but something is happening here and now, isn't it? Peter and I have already discussed this, and I hope that by the end of the evening, as the presence grows stronger, we will have a deeper awareness of that. I'm not bold enough to try to tell you who Mooji is, but it seems to me that he is talking about wisdom with an ancient lineage, talking about it in a fresh, new, heartfelt way that is right for now. Peter and I are going to ask questions for about 45 minutes. Then I think Mooji may take questions from the audience. So I'm going to start off the questions now. Mooji. Who are you?
Oh. Of course, if one is asked such a question, traditionally the answer would be very different. I would probably speak something about my background and where I was born and such things, but I'm not going to miss that opportunity to speak something which is not unique to my person, but is very much the fact of my existence. So, which one you want? You see? I say, okay, I hear both, and that's quite good, because both is true also. I was born very much, some of you may know, in Jamaica in the Caribbean, and grew up very much in a very Christian background. Not so deeply religiously Christian, but because the climate religiously in Jamaica is Christian, so we are in the influence of that climate of Christianity. I came to United Kingdom in 1969 to join my mother, who had been living here for quite a long time. I did not know her before coming here, and did my education here. In 1987, I met someone who I referred to as a Christian mystic. It was that for me. I did not even know the term before to say Christian mystic, but I say Christian mystic because he did not fit into any category that I could really hold him into. Young man, also Afro-Caribbean also, but came in such a humble way. I came across this person who I was so captivated by his humility that I found myself asking questions to him that I had not really thought deeply about. And through this encounter, somehow, more curiosity, a deep curiosity arose in me. He kept coming over a period of maybe, I would say, 6 weeks or so. And during this time, I became more and more brave and finding more questions that I felt were not so consciously in my mind, but they were surfacing. And then at one point, I felt so comfortable that I remember on a certain evening, on a Sunday it was, he had come to the place where I lived, and with another friend, and we sat in the front room speaking. And at the end of the conversation, he was about to leave, and I asked him, I said, Michael, when you pray again next time, will you pray for me? And he just answered, yes, but why not now? Oh, okay. So he stepped up towards me, and then he laid his hand on my head and made a prayer. And somehow, quite unexpectedly, at the end of this prayer, I don't even remember what words he used, but at the end of that prayer, I found myself spontaneously asking also God, please help me to come more fully into the light of this, of the truth. And that was it. Then we had a hug at my door and said goodbye, and he left. And I was left feeling so wonderfully happy and light, and just such a joyful lightness. Nothing spectacular, but just very, very light and peaceful. So much so that I even didn't want the evening to end. I was by myself at that time now. He had left, the friend had also left, and I just felt like I never wanted to go to sleep. I just wanted to stay in this feeling that I was experiencing. And I stayed up as late as I could, and until sleep overtook me. I didn't want to sleep because I felt that if I went to sleep, by the time I wake up, maybe the feeling would be over. But it wasn't so. In the morning, I remember getting up, and there was a little opening between the curtains, and the sunlight was flooding in like a little ray coming in. And for some reason I felt really, really so caught by this. It felt miraculous to me, almost like I'd never seen the sunlight before. It was just a ray of sunlight with all these dust particles in it, but it was something else was going on inside. And so somehow I realized that the feeling had not lessened. It was still this intense feeling of joy and peace. And I remember going out, I felt like going out for a walk in the local park. I went walking, and everywhere I went, this feeling was still present inside. And a deep peace was there. And it has never left, this peace. I want to tell you that. And so I don't even know why I'm saying even this, because you simply asked, who am I? But it is significant, because the way that I would have thought about myself and began to change very quickly. No one was asking me like, who are you? What's going on for you? So quickly, I was spending so much time alone. I wanted to be alone, actually. But it was so powerfully alive, this feeling within me. Everything I thought about life that I would take for granted began to seem not so steadfast anymore. And well, if I speed things up, some years passed, I just kept on feeling more deeply in love with this, which I call God, like that. So, for a while, I had attended this small gathering, this church, where Michael lived. He actually lived in a place not more than 100 meters from where I was living, in a small room, which they use as a church on Sundays. I went there for some time, but somehow I did not feel comfortable with the preacher, who was not Michael, who was there. I wasn't so comfortable with his language and the feeling that there was a strong sense of them and us-ness about his way of speaking. So from being in the center of the room, I found myself by the edge of the room, and then in the hallway, and then by the front door, and took off. And I felt this is an important thing to say, because with this happening, I was so sure that I was safe somehow, because the experience which had taken place up until then, I knew for sure was inside my being. But I wanted so strongly to find out more about that. And I had to spend some time alone and to move about my life, but feeling very, very much wanting to be alone, spending time in such quietude that I was not used to. But it was a powerful attraction to be alone for some time. So one time what happened, because I don't have a background of reading books, but at that time a powerful fascination came. I needed to learn more, like I want to find out more. And I went to one bookshop in Streatham, a place nearby. I was about to mention name, no, I don't mention. But it was like my first experience of going into a bookshop, and it was full of books on spirituality, particularly Christian teachings and so on. And I was so surprised. I said, wow, so many people have found this out also. But I didn't know how to approach, There was so many things on angels and this and that and so on. And at one point, it was as though all the words in all the books were talking at the same time, and it was such a, wow, I just took off there. It wasn't until maybe another 2 years I found myself in the West End of London. I went to this bookshop. Many of you may know Watkins Books. Again, I don't even know how I came across this. Just walking past and went downstairs, and I went to look at Eastern religions, and again, so many books. And I always look for the smallest books because it's just the way it is. I look for the smallest books, and I saw one book was not with the other books. It was turned this way, so you could see the cover. It was very small. It was on it was a face that was shining such peace and such inner radiance. You know, I was very attracted to this picture. As a matter of fact, it's here. It's the same face. It's the face of a sage called Ramana Maharishi. I didn't know anything about India. I was not particularly interested in that. But I saw this book, and this is for me. It was very thin, and it was a book on self-inquiry. I thought, okay, so I opened and started to look, and I was completely in shock. I thought, no. This cover and the content don't go together. I felt the content was very mental. Oh, you're not this, you're not that, you're this. And I felt, well, what is this all about? I could not really get to terms with it. Actually, I wanted to go to the counter and tell them there's a mistake in the printing because somebody had put the wrong book with this cover. But I didn't. I just put it back, and I went along, and I saw another book. It said The Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. And the word gospel was important for me because of the gospel from the Bible, So I thought, okay, didn't want to stray too far. So this book, I just opened it, and I started to read a bit, and I flicked again and read, and every page I was looking, it was somehow touching me. And that was my first book that I bought. Before this, I was given the Bible by Michael. He gave me a Bible, just New Testament. It's the New International Version, NIV says, of the New Testament. And I had it small, no Old Testament, the New Testament and the Psalms of David. So this I had. But the next one was this book, The Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. And I had read this book, so it became such a dear friend. So many nights I went to bed with tears on my pillow. I didn't want to come to the end of it. It really opened up so much. It taught so many things. And so that was how I came to discover a little bit about Indian philosophical, not philosophical, but spiritual thought and like this. And because of this, the discovery of this book, I ended up in 1993 to travel to India, where the intention was to go to the place where Ramakrishna lived. He was no more in the body. That has not taken place up until this day. Instead, by chance, I came to meet Sri Punjaji. There's a picture of Papaji here. I met him. And there, when I met him, I recognized I want to be here. I was afraid, but it was a good fear. And through him now, I came later to read the books of Ramana Maharishi, which I couldn't read when I first met it. So where does this come in with who am I? Who am I? Well, because of the guidance of Ramana Maharishi and Papaji, I came to discover that I am not who I believe myself to be. Not my conditioning, not my beliefs, not my body. All these things became vividly clear for me in a way that I could understand and experience. It became experience for me when it eventually opened up that what was really here, everything else was passing, belonged to time. My thoughts, my feelings about life, my identity, all of my body, all these things belonged somehow to time. They were passing phenomena. That there was only one thing that was not passing. And I found it. And we call it consciousness. So that discovery was not different, actually, from what I experienced when I discovered what I would call the Christ consciousness. It was not different, worded differently, different in expression, but I feel it's the one in essence, actually. So to answer this question, I'm sorry I had to take so much time, because you've asked me the most profound and difficult question. I like short answers, but it would not be fair to just say that. And so in answer to the question, I would say that what I am is that consciousness, for sure, but it is still that consciousness that is being expressed in its dynamic expression in the form of what you may call the sense of personhood or whatever like that. So I am both the sense of the person and the consciousness from which the person springs. Is it fair answer I can give? Thank you.
Can I ask you a little bit about Papaji? Because
Yes.
I'm sure I'm probably the only person in the room who hadn't really heard very much about him beforehand.
Yes.
But what was it in meeting him in those encounters that you had with him?
Yes.
That made this very profound thing happen? What was he like? How did that come about?
Well, I happened to be in a place in the north of India called Rishikesh. Now we go there frequently, but in those days, when I left England, I had a chance to go there to travel, so I'd only heard really about Rishikesh, that there were lots of temples and ashrams there and so on. All these words I heard only through Ramakrishna's book. And so I traveled to Delhi, and then I found that there was some tours that traveled to Rishikesh. It's quite a number of hours away, and I went to Rishikesh. And while there one day, I met again some people who, it was again such a strange encounter, but through them they insisted, you need to meet this Papaji. They say, he is our master, he is connected with this region, Rishikesh, but he's not traveling anymore, he's not so well. You have to meet him. But I was not inclined at the time to go with them. They really insisted, you must come with us, And so I said, give me the address and I'll come. So some 2 weeks passed. I wanted to go to another place called Varanasi, holy city of Hindus. So I went there, and eventually I went to Lucknow, this place called Lucknow, to where Papaji was living. When I went there, the first day we were waiting, we were brought to the front of the room. All newcomers were brought to the front of the hall. And we were waiting with everyone. When he came in, everyone stood up. I've never seen such a big Indian man before. It was huge, right? Walking in. And he came and he sat down, and just something I cannot describe what it is. I just knew I have to be here. I just knew this like that. And what I found, and I sometimes speak about it, was during these months that I spent in Papaji's presence, that I was not learning so much, but I was changing a lot. I could not understand this, these questions of who are you and blah, blah, blah. It was not sinking in so much. But something was changing. My sense of the life, existence, was becoming more expansive. I didn't know where it's going to stop. It felt like it was just, and I was feeling less and less like this kind of person who had a specific history and all of this like that. So,
Was that because of things that he was saying when you were in his presence, or was it just his presence, just being around him?
Primarily, it was the presence. It was just this tremendous respect that I felt for him. And it just felt, I have not met a human being of this type of stature, I'm not talking physical stature, but a human being who had such an immediate impact just through their presence. And it really resonated inside, and I just knew somehow. I could not explain why and what that was, but I knew I needed to stay there. You see, like that. Yes. Gradually, the teachings began to touch my heart and to make sense to my mind in a way that, okay, a little bit, but in a sense, it was not just in the words only, but the guidance became. I have to say somehow that I don't feel that I had that kind of mental aptitude to catch things so quickly. It had to be a bang, 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 bang with this type of thing. Then gradually it opened up,
And how was he with you? How did he treat you?
Well, for much of the time I was hiding from him. You see, because what happened is that something was caught, until then, from 1987 until I met Papaji in 1993, much had changed in my inner way of life, and I felt somehow many things that felt miraculous was taking place, and I just, I felt I'd gotten somewhere. But in his presence, I felt a bit lost, but at the same time, powerfully attracted. And sometimes he would call people up, or they would come and approach him, and he would somehow destroy them. I don't know if it doesn't sound very nice thing, but but they'd go back again for more. You see, like that, So what happened is that for so many months I sat in Satsang. Satsang is, gathering like this, pretty much. And I sat behind somebody with big shoulders or something, so I could just keep my head. And I just drew as much as I could from the vibration and what he was saying, as much as I could comprehend with the light that was available to me at that time. So I was like listening, benefiting from the questions that some people would put and the answers that he would give and so on. All of that was somehow being absorbed in me. And so it wasn't until a few months had passed that I summed up the courage to actually write something, to introduce myself to him, like that. So, yes, that's another thing.
You talk in the book about how later on you became able to see people from inside the being.
Yes.
So were you hiding from him because you sensed that capacity in him?
I see.
He could really see you?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. But he was not looking for me. Not personally, you see? So maybe in a deeper way, that openness in him is what is drawing everyone towards himself, no? But maybe I wasn't feeling ready, and I was encountering some resistances within my own self that I was not expecting to be there. So there was some trouble there, But I knew somehow that I needed to present myself to go up to him, you see? And so, as I said, I drafted up a few letters and, found that I really got it right now. And in the morning, I went for satsang, and someone would come and ask, any letters for Papaji today? And then it was taken. I said, oh, no. Now it felt like the beginning of the end or something. And in satsang, I was waiting because sometimes satsangs would go on beyond the usual time, usually maybe 2 hours, sometimes it goes 3 hours, you see. And I was just spending the satsangs, looking at my little yellow letter. I could see it on the table, hoping he wouldn't get to it, that he would kind of postpone or something, run out of time, and maybe I would take it back. There was all this stuff was going on. But indeed, he reached the letter and he pulled it out and he started reading. Then he called, Tony, you see, that's my name, Anthony, Tony. And then he came and he started immediately making fun. Tony is a girl's name, no? That wasn't funny, you know. Okay, so he said, I started to walk up through all these people, start to approach him, no? And somehow it's as though I was dropping some layers as I was going up. Something felt so powerfully imminent at the time I was coming, you know. So I went up to him and he kept on reading the letter and he was talking as he was going. And the most unexpected thing came. This noise started coming up inside. Powerful noise, like lots of thoughts and all feelings of resistance was coming up powerfully until it actually reached a point where it just became a kind of like a like this, from words to siren, okay? It was coming up like, whoa, so much anger and frustration. In that anger, it was like, you know, why is he speaking like this? You know, I mean, you know, he's not my true master, you know. No, Ramana, if Ramana was here now, he would have been right. All this nonsense going on. And the resistance, and yes, I know that I made a mistake to come. All this resistance was coming up. And somewhere in all of that, I could not hear every word, but what came through is that he said, if you want to meet God, because you want to meet God, but you want to be you and God, if you truly want to meet God, you have to vanish. He said like that. I never heard this stuff. Why I must vanish? How am I going to meet God if I vanish? Anyway, whatever. You have to disappear, he said something like this. And that's triggered this big inner outburst, you know. I just wanted to get as far away from him as I could get away, you see. And then after satsang, I couldn't wait to go. All the few people I'd known and friends, I didn't want to face them. I felt completely, what you would say now, I felt embarrassed, or what is the word, something. Humiliated. Oh, you're right. Humiliated. I felt okay, now this is what I needed to have this experience so I could leave this Lucknow. The place called Lucknow, but for me it was bad luck now. That place, I'll go and go away. So I went home. It was a hot day, very, very hot day, and I felt, you know, I need to get some air. I was packing furiously, but still this rage, like inside, lots of frying, like this. And then I stopped for a bit and went out into the local village town and sat under a tree for a little bit, just to try and calm down. And after a while, I felt, okay, now I go back and finish my packing and leave Lucknow. And I'd walked maybe from here to that door, maybe a bit further, on my way back to the house. And suddenly, everything vanished. Everything. Can I speak like that to say? Like everything that I felt I knew, including myself also, just like it was gone. What does it mean to say that I vanished? It was that I could not find any reference for who I thought I am. Yes.
And was that a frightening thing, or how did it feel?
It was initially very strange. I was looking at, I don't know for what, I was looking at the hands, but there was a clear understanding there's nobody in there. It's a funny thing to say, but that's what happened. I didn't look in the mirror, I looked at my hand, the hands, and there was a feeling there's nobody in here. There was just this immensity, a sense of an immensity. And I could look out on the traffic on the road, and everything seemed to be moving in silence. It was like a silence, and a little bit slower. The things were moving, but I couldn't see who am I looking like that. And then a few more steps in this, and Papaji appeared in that space for me. And I feel that was the moment that I met him, really. You see? He sort of became my master, you can say like this, no? My teacher.
Do you mean he appeared in physical
No,
form?
it just appeared somewhere where in this twilight zone space. It was just, everything was there. And then I felt full acceptance of him. I realized up until then I was not really in acceptance of him as a master or something. Like you would have been a master, but not my master or something. Yeah.
And from that, did you then have further conversations with him? Because there's a sense, reading about him, when you write about him, there was like almost a sort of passing of the flame from one master to another, that he'd somehow chosen you.
Well, not with any words, because what happened is that I remember one Christmas, the Christmas in 1993, he came and he gave me this flower, which I was very happy. By this time, I was in love with him, you see? No? His flower said something like, "You're very beautiful," or something like this. And it was, okay, I accepted, thank you, Papaji, and so on. And someone said after, there was some significance in this. I did not see it that way. Just he gave me this flower, which I still have, And, but he never said to me, "I am giving you my teachings to now go and say anything to anybody." No, he did not do that.
And you say in the book that afterwards you went away for several years, and I think you were, well, to use word you sometimes use, you were marinating yourself.
Yes.
In the isness,
yes.
In the self. Could you say something
yes.
about that? And,
yes. I did not intentionally set out to do anything. What happened was in the beginning of 1994, I went to Papaji and said I wanted to go to Ramana Maharshi's ashram. That's his own master's ashram in the south of India, a place called Tiruvannamalai. And I had a pull to go there, so I went and spent some time there. And just at some point, I felt a strong feeling to go back to Lucknow in the north to see Papaji again. And during this short time I was with him, one morning after Satsang, I felt a strong feeling to go to his room. There's a private room which he goes after Satsang each day. He would sit for maybe 10 minutes. People coming in or going out would come and say goodbye or to greet him privately. But I had never, in all the time I spent with him, I had never... Is this interesting to you? Oh, okay. I had never gone to this room. And I found this morning, I was at the door knocking. And I think, why am I knocking at this door? And someone came and I said, I need to see Papaji. Even these words, I did not prepare them. I need to see Papaji. And they went and they took his approval, and the girl came back and said, Master say, come. I went into a small room and he was there. And I felt at his feet, And I said, Papaji, whatever is about to happen, I leave it at your feet. I don't know what I'm talking about. Like this, no? So after this now, he left, and they took his van, he went home, and then we came out. And in those days, there used to be we call a man called the fax man. There was no emails or SMS. We used to have something called fax. You remember anybody old enough? Okay. So the fax came in, and they would have a blackboard with your name if you receive a fax message. And I saw my name there. And I went and I took this letter. You had to pay some rupees for this. I took this letter. I went to the side and I opened it. And it was a message from my partner in London. And it said, she say, call immediately. So I went to the telephone box and I called London, and she told me my eldest son had just passed away. So with that, very, very quickly, I left. I said, say bye to Papaji, and I came back to London. And that's how I came back. And then all this was taken care of, and for some years I just stayed. From 1994 to 1997, I just spent a lot of time by myself. And that was this marinating time. I just sat, and for a while you just sit and nothing is happening. You just sit. But gradually it's like something from within just sets. And from in this setness, a kind of a deeper inwardness was kind of cooking inside. So that was a very important time for me, yeah.
You've said before, when you were talking about your son's death,
yeah,
that you were worried that when you went back, that deep inner stillness that you'd found in India might be challenged by that. And I think for lots of us who've been through the experience of losing someone that we love very dearly, that can be a very traumatic time. And I just wondered if you had any words of guidance for those of us who are going through these things at the moment, about how to deal with grief, and how grief can be a kind of an opening almost.
Yeah, I don't know how useful my words would be for just anyone on that. I feel I was in a particular state of being, and now I would say that anyone who has been attending satsangs and following the guidance and coming into that inner proof and direct experience of what is, then they would know what I am about to say, because there was something there that I felt even in the most powerful challenging, turbulent kind of moments remained unshakable. It's not something that I developed as a human being. It is something that's there. It is in everybody. It is in everyone. You see, that is one of the good news I had to share. I know it is in everyone, that power is there. How much we are in access of this power, depending on how much we are living with a loyalty to personhood, or if you've gone beyond the sense of personhood into the field of conscious presence and deeper than this. That will inform and manifest in a different way than if you are living a life based very strongly on the sense of personhood and the usual desires and attachments and so on that accompanies a very personal life. I was no more in that so much personal life. Just somehow it felt like I was walking in steps that were already prepared for me. And so I never came to the point where I felt I regretted my son's death. Sometimes people say, oh, he died so young and so on. And I would say, you know what, he died right on time. That was his destiny. That was the point. And didn't question it, you know. We had questions raised because he died of something called viral pneumonia. It's a very rare strand of pneumonia where you can just die like this. I mean, standing up, people have also died standing up. It's very strange. And that he had gone out with his girlfriend on a Saturday night and arranged to meet on a Sunday for lunch and so on, and he hadn't turned up. And she rang, and his grandma, where he was staying, went to look in his room, and that he was just there like this, effectively drowned. It's kind of like your lungs fill up with water, and you just you're drowned, basically. I never questioned this, and don't question these things, not because it's forbidden, simply because it just something was so deeply accepting of life in all of its manifestations. And later, a deeper understanding would come to guide beings, particularly those who were sort of walking the paths, you may say. I don't feel it is my duty to go and tell people how they should or should not be. But those who have been following and deepening in understanding and experience of what really is, they can accept these guidances much, much more smoothly than others, you know. For many people, it is these very experiences that may trigger the first steps they may make towards a deeper understanding of what life is, you see. For those who have been on the journey for some time, and who have gone beyond merely an intellectual conviction of truth into the experiential discovery of truth, they will meet these moments in a much different way, much more powerfully.
Mooji, thank you for your wonderful, beautiful, very wise answers to our questions. Thank you for your beautiful questions, Peter.
Gosh, I thought we'd been talking for about 10 minutes, and I'm just focusing on the clock. It's been wonderful. Thank you. I'm very honoured to be here.
Thank you. Wonderful.
We're now going to leave you in Mooji's space. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful, Peter. Thank you. Very great. Namaste, everyone. Thank you for being here, and as usual, when I come together with people like this, I have not prepared anything. I don't make speeches, so I have not prepared anything. I've found this is the most genuine and natural way to meet, and so here I am. Okay, this lady here, thank you.
Thank you, Mooji.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone who organized this event. I wasn't particularly seeking you, but I think it's the grace who put you on my path. And I accept your...
You weren't looking for me, but what happened?
Yeah, I think it must be grace or
something
synchronicity put you on my path. I accept your invitation to the freedom and the discovery. How shall I describe it? I can't describe it.
Yeah.
But it's not like rocket and stars or something exciting.
Yes.
But since then, I'm more profoundly aware of this fleeting nature of the present material world.
Yes.
I recall my father used to say, life is just like a straight line made up of a lot of dots. What he say is small moment. So I now fully understand. Even the very moment when I came into this room, it's gone.
Yes.
And your first word is gone. So I'm more aware that this material world, the physical existence, is always fleeting. So I become less detached to life, but not in a depressing way. Yeah, I do enjoy life, but
yes.
I accept
Yeah.
it won't last forever.
Yeah.
So this awareness, who is experiencing? It's the I, the person, or the consciousness, the isness?
Yes, it is down to language also, because
Yeah.
there is no one experiencing awareness. There is awareness is at the very source of all the functions of perception. Because of language, we're used to putting a subject as a person who is having this experience or that experience, like that, you see? But you see, you ask the question, who is actually experiencing awareness? Well, awareness. Only awareness really knows awareness. And that may sound a bit mental, but the fact is, if you say, it's like saying you cannot believe in awareness. You can only be that. I mean, whose belief would it be? You see, like this. Now, I know that that might sound, if you're not used to that, and I'm really the right person in a way to say that, because I did not get into a lot of complex thinking. For me, the truth is simple, but the seeker of truth is complex. And it's the complexity of the seeker that gets in its own way. And this is why I was saying that I hope that in a few moments we can together look again at this beyond my explaining, because maybe by words already some resistance comes up and say, oh no, this is too mental and this is too difficult to understand and so on. And of course, I'm here in London for this event of this book, but what is the best use of this time together? I don't want to go into my teachings right now, because it will take some time. It takes some time to stabilize, to understand, to settle down, and to begin to speak from your place of discovery. So I would feel, if I have approval from you, to guide you into that experience yourself, which is more than to say to try and convey concepts to you. I'd rather to say, maybe we can look together in a way that would be the best use of this short time we have together. Then if thank you.
Thank you.
Then if questions arise out of this, seeing, perhaps I may also say those questions may be coming too quickly from the mind and may be premature, that one should just, as it were, marinate or just give a bit of space to really feeling out what is really happening inside your own being as you see this, you see? And it is not anything freaky. I'm not throwing magic powder in your face or something. We're not going to go into some strangeness. It's something that is the most simple, and I feel very happy that Grace has presented this way to condense effectively the teachings of self-inquiry in a most simple way. So if I were to say to you that it is possible that in one session even, if it were presented to you that in one session like this, it is possible to go beyond the traffic of mental noise and personal, complexities into the simplicity of original being, that which alone remains unchanging within yourself, and to have a discovery of that today, would you be up for it? Yes. Can I say like this? What about you guys up there? You are up for this? Very good. Thank you. Okay. So normally I would start by just saying that someone comes forward and they say, I have heard that, you may be someone who can guide me a bit more deeply towards what truly I am, what truly is here, beyond the boundaries of religious differences or sectarian beliefs or whatever, just into the simplicity of what really exists. That I am tired of really feeling this strong voice of resistance in myself, this inner chatter, this egoic attachments and all of that. Is it possible that I can go beyond this into what you call the simplicity of being? What I refer to sometimes as the field of isness, of just what is. I say this because I didn't want to give it a name, because it has been called various names, and sometimes these names have become sort of crystallized into some hard concepts, and then a lot of dogmas and stuff comes up in them as well. So if I were to use the term, I just say the what is, the that which exists, okay? Just to keep a kind of neutrality about it. It is referred to in many different names, and it does not suffer from insults, okay, about itself. So someone has come and said, please, can you guide me? I know you cannot guarantee, but can you help me to come to that recognition? And I say, from the room of being, from the space of being, I invite you. Okay, very well, come inside here. But before you do, I say, please leave your shoes outside. It's just a customary thing. Leave your shoes outside. And one more thing, I would say, can you leave your mind also outside? And then you say, aha, that's the catch. That's the very thing. I want to overcome this. How can I leave my mind outside? And then my response is, well, by leaving your mind outside, I simply mean, for the short duration of my talk with you, a few minutes, can you not talk about yourself? Can you not go into your past or any projections about the future? Is it possible that we can suspend, just for the short duration of this guidance, that we don't talk about your past and memories? Is it okay with you? Yes. I'm going to ask for responses now and again, very, very simple things. And that the sense as we go along that, as I said, any projections about what you would want in the future, like in the future I'd like this kind of world, to live in this kind of world, or this is how I would like to be. I would like to be like a Buddha. And I said, just for a moment, just suspend all of these for a moment, so that your mind can be relaxed and just empty. It's very, very important to come back to a place of emptiness, and that you don't, the idea of, okay, what next? That we also leave this for the moment. Just postpone this, what next? And any expectations, just to suspend this habit just for a few moments. It's okay with you that we do this? Yes, yes. Then it has already begun then. All thoughts about past and memories and so on, we would just suspend for the duration of this guidance. And anything about future also, we will not include, because nobody knows what future is. It is never going to be what you expect. So I say, don't be engaged with that, because it's more trouble than it's worth. So let's leave ideas about future alone for a moment. We can do this. Also, there's no need to imagine or visualize anything at all. So this kind of creative, imaginative thinking, you're not required to do. So don't worry, you cannot fail at what I'm speaking. So some people may say, well, I'm not so good at imagining things. You don't have to imagine anything at all. Just keep as you are now, just the mind, space, just empty. You're not a collection point. You're not holding on to any particular concepts. Although you may be aware that somewhere, yes, there's a kind of noise of thinking, but for now, we are suspending that. Even if the mind seems to be knocking to say, well, come on, you have to include me. It's just a sense. You just leave that. Don't be engaged with that. So that you stay in this empty, silent place. There's nothing to do or to undo for now. You're simply here. Even any idea such as, I want to become enlightened, or even such a noble idea, I'm going to ask that you don't even engage with that. And just allow your mind to be relaxed, open, silent, empty. Already I can sense that spaciousness already. And as I said before, there's a tendency for the thoughts or the mind to go, okay, all right, I've done that. Okay, what's the next thing? And I said, watch that. Don't go to next or to past. You're simply here. Past as past. That's why it's called past. There's nothing to imagine. Nothing to create. So like this, you're without history. Just the sense of existence, of being. I won't ask you to hold on to any favorite concepts, for instance. Let everything just go. You stay just as you are right now. Are you less you? No. No amputations. Just you're here. But any descriptions about what you are, the tendency to describe or to create or to classify, these I say, ignore that, suspend that habit. Just get used to the sense of being. That which is here, right now, as it is here. Are you imagining it or discovering it? You're simply here. No pictures. Simply being aware. I had to ask you to do this so that I could ask you some very simple questions to which you must answer yes or no. That's all. You don't need to confer with anyone. It must just come directly out of your being. And remember, I have not said, I've asked you to leave the mind aside, meaning the tendency, habit to create, to give opinions. I'm not going to ask you for any opinions at all. So just as you are right now, empty. No caste, no past, no future. Even now, I'll ask, don't interpret this nowness. Just be. It is good? Yes, okay. Now, what is it that is really here? Notice, does it have any boundaries? No, no boundary. May I ask you again now, what is really here? Is it an object? No. Thank you for responding like that. It's not an object. Does it have any size or shape? No. Very good. Then may I ask you, is there any way that it could be captured, like on the most modern camera? Could you take a picture of it? No, you cannot take a picture of it. And you're still right here present, isn't it? Very good. Can this, is there any boundary beyond which it does not exist? No, no boundary. Can it itself, this all-inclusiveness, can it become depressed? No. Can it become sick? Angry? No. Beautiful. May I ask you, can it be owned by any person or group or doctrine? No, it doesn't belong to anything. Where did it come from? It's already here. If it did not come, can it go? No. It's amazing. It cannot go. You are discovering this right now. But where has it been all this time? Here. Very good. Does it have an age? Here's an important one. Does it depend on your belief to be? No. Amazing. Did you create it? No, you did not create it. Just remain as you are. Can it fade? No. So that if you fell asleep now and you woke up in 3 hours, it would have faded? No, it cannot fade. May I ask you, was it born? This is a question only coming from within your being itself. May I ask you, can it die? You're sure? Let me ask you this. How far away from you is it? A few inches, maybe? A meter? Sorry? No distance? No distance? Not even a millimeter? Amazing, amazing. Let me just try and recap for you. Stay as you are. You're saying this. It is not an object? Is it personal? It is not an object. It is not personal. It has no boundaries beyond which it is not. Is true? It cannot fade. So that if we were to meet again in 3 weeks, it wouldn't be weaker than it is right now. Okay. That it does not depend on your particular belief. It is. You're saying you did not create it. Are you imagining it? No. I said, you are discovering it now, but where has it been all this time? You say, it's just always been here. I ask you, can it be angry or depressed? You said no. I ask you very importantly, was it born? And you say no. And after this I ask you, therefore, can it die? And you say no. Is it true? Yes. Then I believe my final question was, how far away is it from where you are? And you say, remind me, no distance. So therefore, would I be right in saying, if it is not an object, it is not personal, it does not suffer from, does it have desires? No. It has no desires. Attachments? No, it has no attachments. It cannot fade. You cannot take a picture of it. It does not depend on personal belief. It was not born. It cannot die. And then I ask you, how much distance between yourself and it? And you say, no distance. If all these things are true, what you have responded, then it must stand to reason your answers are all about you. I'll say again, if these things you have said are true, then your responses are all about you, who you truly are, formless, impersonal. beyond suffering, judgments, fears, attachments, beyond size or shape, beyond boundaries, unborn, imperishable. Inseparable. Do you want to change your mind about this? Can this be true? And if it is true, what will be the implication of this discovery today? Because we all have a sense that we are personal, we are so different, we have judgments, likes, dislikes, that we have a date of birth, and maybe a date of death also. Can it become disturbed? If these things are true, then who is this other guy? How to reconcile what you are sharing, what you are experiencing, with the sense of the person we believe ourselves to be. Now sometimes people ask, so what? So what to do now? What to do now? And I say, simply give a little attention to this. Marinate in your discovering. How? Well, how do you feel? Is this a disappointing discovery? Because what has happened actually is that sometimes the mind is so strong, it seems, in us, that even some people, they couldn't bear even to listen to these questions. The mind took them out of this place. That there is a force within us that is not in service to this discovery. There is a force in us that will more work to keep you in the old mindset, the old regime of personal identity, where what you have just seen is not a part of your life. And that we will just continue arguing with each other and blame and this and that. But this you have seen. Somewhere within your being, you know this truth. It is your timelessness. There's something timeless inside the time body of a human being. this is opportunity to discover that. Because if we don't discover, the feeling of our differences will always prevail. You are like that, he's like that, I don't like this, I'm so tired, I'm fed up, please get me out of here, blah, 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 this kind of stuff. Then you ask, someone may ask, but how to remain in that state? Actually, this, what we are speaking about and you're discovering, is not even a state. States come and go also. Everything perceived have beginning and ending. Time says, all that you see, all that you imagine, all that you think or remember belongs to me. I eat all those things. Except awareness itself. Because I am the product of awareness itself. I cannot eat awareness. It is the source of all. It is the supreme self. So if we have taken a short portion of our life to discover even this, is it worth it or not? Yes. I say sometimes, my God, you don't realize what you are discovering. Because this is a fruit that will keep getting sweeter and sweeter and sweeter, but will never become oversweet. It will never decay. What you have to do, appreciate it. Acknowledge it. Discover it. Enjoy. Be. Be it. How to be it? I don't say become. It is already in you. When all things change, this remains. When all things change, this alone remain. I want to tell you something that's just coming up now for me. One of our friends in Sahaja, I saw on her phone, the image on her phone was a beautiful painting. It was a painting of Jesus. It was done by Leonardo da Vinci. It was said this painting is the newest discovery of a painting that was felt to be lost. I want to take just a few seconds to talk about it. Whether it looks like Jesus or not is irrelevant. What was fascinating about it is that this painting was made maybe in the year 1400 and something, 70 or something. When the painting was sold, the person who received the painting didn't like the painting. I don't know if they bought it, maybe it was given to them. They didn't like the painting and commissioned another artist to touch up some part of the painting. Okay? They felt that this painting had too much beard or something, so they touched it up. Not a very good artist, by the way. And then the painting went over years. Different artists have been touching up the painting until it became a very ugly thing. This is a true story. You can look it up also. And then what happened is, some years ago, the painting was sold for £40. Wow. 40 pounds. Then it went maybe car boot sale or something they find. Then this painting came to another person who bought the painting, and this man had a feeling about the painting. So he had a friend, this man, who was a restorer, an English woman, who was a restorer of artwork. And he says, please, take a look at this, because I have a feeling about this painting. So he gave her, and she started to clean it. She could see that somehow there's some things which are not consistent somewhere. I'll just keep removing. So she started to remove the most recent layers of paint, and underneath that was some varnish. She took off this varnish, and more layers are coming. 6 months later, she was discovering something. She said her heart was jumping, but she tried not to get excited. They found the alleged lost painting of Leonardo da Vinci. It was sold in auction for 480 million pounds. Okay? This is very recent, by the way. It's a metaphor for what I'm sharing with you. Something original, huh?
6 years.
Oh, it took the lady 6 years, not 6 months, 6 years to clean. We were watching it together, to clean the painting, to restore it. And in the same way, there is something that is original to all living beings. In our human kingdom, it has been added onto, it has been distorted, it has been interpreted and misinterpreted. It had a lot of varnish and old paint over him. Okay? And everyone here is a portrait of it. But the portrait of it is not it in our case. And somehow, through Satsang, something begins to pull away the layers which are not original, to come back to that which is original. Leonardo da Vinci's painting was sold for 480 million pounds. But your truth is infinitely priceless, in fact. The truth of you. It won't go on auction. I did not want to share this as some poetic story, because as I was watching and listening, I was seeing the analogy, I was seeing the parallels with what it's like for a human being to be restored. We are not who we have been conditioned to believe we are. Of course, because the original is always there. And so it will always send a sparkle from its own source. But in some urge, which is put there in this case by grace, I don't know what causes grace to shake up this representation. But the result is that some of you are beginning to discover experientially the unveiling of your true nature. I have not come to convert anyone. Revert maybe. but not to convert. Each one can continue in the life as you live, but your awakening to the truth will bring something extraordinary to the ordinary. And then it will itself become almost ordinary. So, was it a good little exercise or not? Okay. Thank you. Very good. There is something that, as I said, there's a force within everyone that will do everything to sabotage this recognition in you. For as long as we prioritize and are loyal merely to our personality, or the idea we have of who we are, this understanding may not seem to take root. But the seed is already there. Perhaps in some it will take a little bit. A bit of rainfall, a little bit of sun, and it may sprout. For others, it's already sprouting. Thank you for today. I believe we're having a bit of music also. Ah. Joy.
One. 0. You're filling up my eyes, filling up my eyes, the form with which to hide you. Now everywhere I find you, I am not my mind, live like I was blind. Now everywhere I find you, now everywhere I find you, filling up my eyes. Everything is changing, but I am here. I see the rearranging, endless is your love, is life. Life can't die. No, life can't die, and love can't die. No, life can never die. Endlessly am I, no place for me to hide. Lord, my presence is my life, as constant as the sky. I choicelessly abide. For this love I cry, Lord, I am alive. I am, oh I am life. Om Namah Shivaya. I am alive. Om Namah Shivaya. Oh, I am life. Om Namah Shivaya. I am alive. Om Namah Shivaya. Oh, I am life. Om Namah Shivaya. I am alive. Om Namah Shivaya. Oh, I am life. Om Namah Shivaya. I am alive. Om Namah Shivaya. You're filling up my eyes, filling up my eyes, the form with which to hide you. Now, everywhere I find you, I am not my mind. I live like I was blind. Now, everywhere I find you now, everywhere I find you, filling up my eyes. I'm here. Everything is changing, but I am here. I see the rearranging. Endless is your love. Is life. Life can't die. Life can't die. Love can't die.
Just before I go, I'll ask you one more time. Is it fading?
No.
No. Do you have the right or the authority to say this? Yes. Then God bless you. Thank you. Mind will sometimes come and say, "Ha, you lost it. You lost it." And you'll be reminded of maybe some feelings that in the moment feels terrible, or a challenge that has not really been met, or something. And the mind will use that to equate a failure for you. But this cannot fail. It cannot even succeed. Can I say it like that? Yes. You understand now what I'm speaking? Yes. It is beyond the field of concepts. It is not a belief. It is the fact of your existence itself. We have primarily been living in the mode of personhood, meaning in the idea we have of who we are, that is always changing. And that belongs to the field or the realm of the changeful. But this, to what category does this belong? Timeless. Timeless. You have noticed that I have not emphasized how you should behave and so on. From the very core of this understanding, your actions will be informed. Each life expression can be totally unique, but it is one in essence with all of life. When you know this, beyond merely believing it, believing is great, but belief must transform into experience. You must become the proof that truth is and God exists. Whatever religion you may be, continue in your religion. Continue. But bring this understanding into your heart. You don't have to speak about it. I say, we only live once, but it is forever. Different chapters, an unending book. But the truth is beyond books. It's beyond color, it's beyond shade, it's beyond shape, it's beyond form. Now I'm only reminding you of what you know. But maybe imagined that we lost or have become separated from. You're not an oil painting. Thank you for today. Thank you. I love you. Thank you.